Hello, and welcome to the Vergecast. It is a day in September. The 24th of September.
24th of September.
24 of these goddamn days have happened. There's going to be 6 more. And that's life. That's just how punishing life is. Hello, and welcome to the Vergecast. Today is a very special Vergecast. Many things are going to happen on the show. So, here's the first thing I'm going to say. I am joined by the cast of Verge Science, which is awesome. So our science editor, Liz Lopatto, is in from Oakland. She's in New York visiting us. Loren Grush is here. She's always in New York, but now she's here in the chair. she's on the 8th floor instead of 9th floor.
I took an elevator ride.
I'm blowing it. That's what's happening. And then this I did not know. Arielle Duhaime-Ross is in the hype seat.
Mm-hmm. Hello.
And I was like, man, we're having a science show. Why don't we all at the table? And Liz was like, it's actually Arielle's dream to be in the hype seat.
Oh, I'm so hype. I'm so hype.
So that, I think, is very exciting. So it's going to be a science cast. It's actually, Liz has been at The Verge for a year now.
It's true.
She has built an incredible science program. We're going to talk about why we're covering science and all the science stuff that's happening. And you might be wondering, because this was iPhone Review Week, why we are not talking about the iPhone on the Vergecast. And there's a very special reason for that, which I'm announcing now to the live viewer. But then many tens of thousands of people will hear this in their cars and on the subway, and you'll be able to take action on what I'm about to say.
The suspense.
I know, that's crazy suspense. We have a new podcast. The Verge has a new podcast. It is called Control, Walt, Delete. It stars Walt Mossberg. Yes. The first episode was taped this week. It is. It would be up right now concurrently with us, but iTunes is a little glitchy for us right now. So Control Walt Delete is up. It is me and Walt. We're going to talk for 30 minutes every week about his column, about technology, about all of the stuff Walt knows that nobody knows. Walt is full of incredible stories. I'm so excited about it. So we did the first episode this week on the iPhone, on our iPhone reviews. If you are into that, you want to hear some tech nerds talk about some tech nerd stuff, please listen to Control Alt Delete. You can go listen to it. It's in the iTunes store. Actually, the post just went up on the site. And it is 40 minutes of me and Walt just getting deep on the iPhone.
Can I just say that I'm so excited that is the title of the podcast?
Wait, can I get a hype check on the title?
So out of this world, so hype.
Yeah, it is
Arielle,
crazy.
just ace that hype.
I'm gonna try to stick more to the Sam Sheffer version of the hype. So like less numbers, more like random throw out exclamations of things.
Sam was always a freeform hype checker.
So freeform.
He was like the jazz of hype check. In my mind, what's happening on the hype seat is sort of an open. We're seeing it's a name and a chair that I made up to make fun of Sam. Rest in peace. and now it's become like a thing. Like people are like into it, and so we've got to find somebody who can embody it. So, Arielle, this is this could be it.
This is my tryout.
This could be your career. If you pull this off.
I'm trying out for the hype desk.
I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you. See, Lauren's always
Verge
there.
Science is like a cabal. You can't crack it.
We're like our support system.
Yeah.
It works out.
Okay, so we should talk about science. So, Liz, it's been a year.
It has been a year.
I will say, let me tell a little story about Elizabeth. About a year and a half ago, I took over as editor-in-chief of The Verge. And Dieter and I we had some open headcount. We were like, we need to hire. How are we going to grow the site? We need a fucking plan, basically.
A plan.
And we spent some time crying in each other's arms with no plan. It was very tender. And then we're like, we need our first hire has to be kick-ass, has to be a leader, has to help us shape this thing called The Verge and like explain why we're going to do this stuff. And literally the only person we called Liz. Like that's what happened. We're like, we talked to Liz a long time ago when we were thinking about hiring a science editor. And we're like, it's just Liz. So we called Liz. Liz conned us for more money.
True.
It's a totally accurate story, which is great.
As she should.
Yeah.
As she absolutely should. But now it's a year and a half later. It's a year for Liz. And I think we have a really great and vibrant science program that has a lot of narrative and character and understands why it exists. So I just wanted to talk about what you've been trying to do for the past year.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to finally answer all of those "why is this here" comments that some people have been very graciously leaving on our articles. And the reason that we care about science is because that's really where the future starts. I was talking with Nilay about one of the things that is like my biotech reporter PTSD. I don't think that anything that hits the market is new. Like, the stuff that I care about is 5 to 10 years from being in a consumer's hands. And that's true in science. That's also true in tech. There's a great story that Addie Robertson wrote a little while back about a lab that tests out, the new VR tech, and they're not really interested in like optimizing the user experience just so much as they want to see what the possibilities are and play with those, and then like let other people like make it beautiful and like make it ready for the market. And that lab is like right next to my heart. Like, that is exactly the kind of stuff that I care about, is like, what can we possibly do? And then, let somebody else figure out like what the way to sell that is, or how to integrate that into society. But like, what are the possibilities that are open to us? And I really feel like science is that kind of a thing for tech. And the other piece of it, of course, is that increasingly we're seeing a lot of Silicon Valley firms and a lot of sort of tech companies trying to get into science, trying to get into especially medicine. Mm-hmm. And I am so skeptical about it just because, there's that credo, like, move fast and break things. Literally the opposite of first do no harm. And so we occasionally run across things where we'll see someone doing something that's meant to be helpful for health, but that doesn't have the data to show that it actually is helpful.
Right. And if you saw our CES coverage with Liz, she just blew these poor companies apart. Like, she was just walking around the CES unveiled show floor being like, do you have any science? And they're like, I don't know, it counts you. And it just counts everything. And Liz would be like, do you science?
Like, do you science?
Were there studies? Did anybody like think about like, what might be important in terms of outcomes here? Like, and they were like, well, but it counts your steps. And I remember I was standing next to Thomas Ricker, like, do I need to write about these things? Like, should I be writing about this? And he was like, obviously, like, I don't know that people necessarily realize that these aren't real things because they sound real. They're using buzzwords, that sound impressive. And, if you don't necessarily get into the weeds on some of this stuff, you could potentially think, oh, this is a real thing. Mm-hmm. And so, for example, yesterday on our site.
Oh, a website.
A website on theverge.com.
Hey, I like that site.
Yeah. We actually.
This is what happens when you invite us on the podcast.
This is our show.
Get ready.
But we had Arielle writing about an article that appeared in the British Medical Journal. And if you read the article by itself, it looked impressive.
Very convincing.
Very convincing. But if you dig into the data, you discovered several big mistakes. And I don't expect most people to dig into the data the way that we do. But that's why we do it, because we want to make sure that the people who are reading The Verge aren't being ill-served by people who are marketing to them. Think of us as like ad blockers.
Oh man, we're going there.
Yep.
Ad blockers for bad ads. So I'm gonna throw to Arielle and let her tell us.
Arielle blew up the world yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we got this, the press release for an article that was going to appear in the British Medical Journal, and it was super convincing. It stated that there were a number of issues with the U.S. Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee. They issue a report. So you have, those guidelines that you have in like high school. Maybe they'll tell you about it. Like, you should eat this much of meat, you should eat this much of rice.
The food triangle.
The
now discounted
this much
pyramid.
of grains,
Right.
this much of whatever. Right, the food pyramid. So that changes every 5 years. And the reason that it changes, all of that is based on evidence that is in the report that this committee, the Dietary Guidelines Committee, puts out. And essentially, the article in the British Medical Journal was going after that report that was issued this year. The guidelines have yet to be issued. They will be later this year. Going after that report and saying that there were a number of issues with the science and that they didn't do a proper analysis. But the thing is that article was full of mistakes. Mm-hmm. The way that they looked at, for instance, they fault the committee for not including studies about diabetes. and the kinds of diets that can be helpful for managing diabetes. But the thing is that the guidelines are not supposed to be used to manage any kind of illness. They're really the only thing that they can do is that they can be used to prevent to lower the risk of you developing a chronic illness like diabetes. But once you have diabetes, those guidelines aren't relevant anymore. And which means that any studies that looked at a population that already had diabetes, not helpful. So those are the kinds of things that we found in the BMJ article.
They said that meat had been deleted as a recommendation, which was not true. Arielle went into the report and found the places where meat is included as part of a healthy diet.
There's a sentence that says that lean meat can be a part of a healthy diet. So deleting meat, not a thing.
They seem to harp on that part that it was reduce red meat. Nowhere did it say get rid of meat entirely.
Well, no, that's the thing, right? So the woman who wrote the article, she's an anti-carb, pro-fat, right? And
she has a book.
All the tweets that have been directed at me. Yeah, she has got a book about how you should eat more fat and red meat. So I don't know if the listener knows this, but whenever anyone is mad at the Verge, they tattle to me. And then if I don't respond, they'll tattle to Jim Bankoff, our CEO. And Jim's always people are tweeting me what did you do? So I got a lot of tattly tweets today that were you people don't understand how eating low carbs and red meat will save your life.
Right.
And it's maybe
the caveman diet or whatever.
Yeah, so it feels but the CrossFit paleo thing, it's deep. It's deep in our culture.
And see, the thing is that I have actually no problem with that idea or that belief. I think that, the science will tell us. But that's neither here nor there. The problem is that this investigation that the BMJ put out was really bad. That's the issue.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think that's I've noticed, Loren got in trouble, right? On our first day, Loren was what if I piss everybody off?
This is the other recurring theme of the science section.
Well, it's a thing, and it's a thing that I think is really interesting about The Verge and its audience and how we cover things and how you guys have chosen to cover science, which is there's a lot of, I'm trying to find a word. There's a lot of reverence for science. And that reverence occasionally crosses into raw hero worship. And I've just noticed the three of you, you don't have any patience for that shit, which is great. And I think it's really interesting. But it also leads you guys to say, there's going to be good science and there's going to be bad science. And then in Loren's case, there's going to be a set of real expectations about what we should be accomplishing and a set of distorted, faith, right? In what science can accomplish.
Well, with science, there's always talking points. They're the same talking points, and things get very political. Mm-hmm. And I think Liz made a good point when I came on. She was we're not cheerleaders here. We're here to kind of wade through all of that and present to you what is being done correctly and what's not being done correctly. So that's kind of how I think we approach things. We don't just take things at face value. And I think it's easy to do that because a lot of people are really into science these days, which is great. But at the same time, being invested in science doesn't necessarily mean just championing everything that you hear. So,
this is actually one Arielle has brought up repeatedly as we cover tech, science lends a veneer of legitimacy to all kinds of technology where you need to do more work. And the one that, when the Apple Watch came out and Apple started tracking health, Arielle was well, you don't track 50% of the population that menstruates. And also people with eating disorders, don't need everything in their lives quantified all the time by default.
Right.
Can you talk through that? Because that was really interesting to me.
Yeah, well, what's interesting about stuff like the Apple Watch is you can turn off health tracking, you can turn off calorie counting and everything, but it's really difficult to do that. And you have to really you have to dig down deep into the settings. I think it took Nilay and I a week and a half to figure out how to do it. And, those are things that if you're going to turn those things on automatically, which might be fine for the majority of the population, but for some people, those things are going to be really triggering and it's really hard to get away from them. And everybody's wearing fitness trackers now and everybody's doing all these things. So if you have an eating disorder and you have an app on your phone that you can't delete, like the health app on the iPhone, it's going to be really hard to avoid that trigger that tells you, oh, you should be checking this. Oh, you should turn it on. It doesn't matter that you can turn it off. The app is still there and it's staring at you in the face every time you open your device.
Right.
And that is a real problem.
Well, it's a real, I want you to talk about this part too, because it's, the notion that we should quantify everything and that will lead to better outcomes is like very interesting. And like just raw counting seems like, because that's a big moment, right? Like, we cover the hell out of fitness trackers. Like they're everywhere.
So here's the thing, right? Like, we don't have data that shows that counting this stuff changes anybody's health outcomes.
We have lots. There's lots of anecdotes, though.
Right. There are plenty of anecdotes, but no actual data. And as everybody knows, the plural of anecdote is not, in fact, data.
As everyone knows. Like, that's a real / gold mine that you just pulled into.
But so, this is something that like I deal with a lot in the Bay Area because that's very hot out there. And I was once out with at coffee with someone who's wearing like no fewer than like 4 of these trackers.
Did this person work here?
No.
What's her name? Loren Grush.
And he was talking to me. He's like, "Oh, do you have trouble sleeping?" And I was like, "No, I don't. Like, I just don't have. I get tired and go to bed." But I feel like for some people, this can really add a lot more anxiety, which can be really counterproductive, right? Like, if you were the person wearing 4 fitness trackers and trying to optimize everything, that's actually not going to reduce your stress levels or make it easier for you to sleep because you have this thing that you now have to monitor and pay attention to and think about. So, it's one of those things where I want to see outcomes. I want to see data. I want to see that, like, these things do what we think they do or what they're being promoted as doing before we go ahead and say, yes, they're good.
And actually, it's like not enough to have a device that actually says what it's going to do. Like, it also needs to, like, the human behavior that goes into interacting with this device also needs to be shown. Like, if people don't actually use them, then what's the point?
Right.
I'm wearing right now a dead Apple Watch. I've been wearing a dead Apple Watch for 2 weeks. Not one person has noticed at all. Like, it's just been like a random...
Why are you wearing a dead Apple Watch?
So it started, like, I was wearing it, like, I got a new one with WatchOS 2, so they gave me the phone, and then to review, and they're like, and we want you to check out WatchOS 2, so we know, I always wanted the black stainless steel, so, like, here's one with black stainless steel, you can check it out, and then I wore it for, like, a week during the review period, and the battery died, and I just, like, woke up the next morning, didn't think about it, and put it on, and then it was dead, and I was like, I'm still, like, that's fine. And then I was like, wore it for like a day.
You're fine with that?
Because I never use
this is why I think the Apple Watch is problematic. Because if you are wearing a watch every single day and you are fine with the idea that it goes out, it's probably because it doesn't tell time all the time and you actually don't check it for time.
Well, no, my thing is like, I hate wearing stuff when I use my computer because I'm afraid, like, I don't want it to scratch.
Oh yeah, you do.
Every time I
take
sit
off
down,
your
I
watch.
take everything off. Like,
I think it's weird.
My friends in college hated sitting next to me in school because I would like sit down and be like sunglasses and watch and keys, and like they'd be like, "Dude, you are a disaster. Like, you explode over every desk at this university."
So I used to sit fairly close to Nilay, and I can attest that is the truth.
Yeah.
He just like he sits down and everything just comes off,
Yeah,
and you're like,
The man basically strips and then gets on his computer.
Strips his
I
wrist.
field strip myself. I'm like, I've got like a bullet chamber. I don't know that magazine, a bullet chamber. I screw that everyday carry stuff, man. Like, if it's time for me to jam, I will not be prepared. Like, that's like basically it. I'm like, hold on, I've got to put all my stuff back on.
My thing is that with the Apple Watch, I wouldn't get it because I just don't wear anything. Like that.
Yeah,
I don't wear jewelry. I don't wear bracelets. Like, I hate having things on my arm. So if I already have a phone with a time on it,
well, no,
it does most of the things that Apple Watch.
My point is that, like, this has just become like a hilarious social experiment in my life. Like, I'm just wearing this like dead thing on my wrist, and literally until today, like, I have not told anyone, and no one has noticed. Like, I work in an office full of nerds.
because the Apple Watch's face is just black anyways.
Yeah,
Of course, nobody noticed.
But no one's like, "What time is it?"
No
And
one's
they
gonna
watch
be
me
like-
pull out my phone, and no one's like, "Why aren't you checking your watch?" Like, literally, no one cares. They're like, "Oh yeah, you're just not."
Everyone's
using that
been
watch.
like, Nilay flipped
Although
his
I will
wrist
say-
and nothing went on.
It's no. I guess it's 4. The sun is in the sky. The sun is in the sky. It's 4:00. Yesterday I was at the bar with Dieter and Chris, and we're all wearing Apple Watches, and I was like, I gotta take this off. Like, I can't be in this
felt
group.
awkward.
Right?
You felt awkward.
Like, the 3 of us can't be seen together.
See, whenever I see somebody wearing a Pebble, I get kind of excited and I want to say hi, but I don't. This is my problem.
That's it. You're
Yeah.
just
Can we
like,
get a
hit the
hype
wall.
check? Hype check on the Pebble?
Hype check the Pebble.
Okay, so with the iPhone, not hype. 0,
Ooh.
not cool, negative. However,
That was definitely a freeform hype check burn.
However, with this Note 5 beauty that I have here that I'm very in love with, I think it's out of this world. It's awesome. It does most everything I want it to do, and I think that, the trade-off is the long battery life versus it being able to just like automatically pick a contact and be able to text them with your voice or whatever. I think that's totally fine.
Yeah.
It works the way I want it to. I can use it to answer a text message in the shower, and that is badass.
Are you a big phone person?
What do you mean?
Well, you've got a Note, so like I fully believe that all phones will be huge, and you're clearly on my team, the winning team.
So I had the iPhone 6, not the 6 Plus, for the last year, and I was sad the whole year.
Yeah,
because you're like super sad. Yeah, and
knew.
Everybody was telling me like it'd be too big, it'll never fit in your pockets when I'm wearing skinny jeans or whatever. And you know what? I don't care. I don't care. The protruding phone thing is not a problem for me. I'm fine.
What about you, Liz?
I'm a small phone person. I just
on the losing team.
I also, like, in fairness,
enjoy the last moments of your small phone existence.
I don't know what's going to happen because, like, I have like an iPhone 4. Maybe an iPhone 5. Mm-hmm. It's like, like a normal size phone.
Maybe a 5.
I have no idea. I've had this phone for like 3 years now.
That's a 4. The best iPhone. The best looking iPhone ever.
So it's small. It fits in my hand, whereas the bigger phones don't. Like, I need to hold it with both hands, and that.
But that's you got to grasp the future firmly.
I need to show you my PDF magic with this thing.
Oh my god!
Like,
we're in the weeds.
No, but I mean, like, that's gonna salt my whole, like, I have like a iPhone games that you can play with just one hand, so that when I'm on the BART and holding on to something, like, I can just be like, yeah, this is cool, whatever. And like, I'm not gonna be able to hold my phone in one hand and hold on to the rail with the other.
Truly a first world problem.
Thank you, Nilay.
Now I will read an advertisement. Wait, what about Loren? What about you?
I have no preference. I guess I'd give a bigger one if I could, but I have the iPhone 6.
Don't you have the Plus?
No,
you have the 6.
No. I have this. There's 2 versions of that one.
Verge science, everybody.
Hey now, do not lump me in with those nerds.
We'll talk about this later.
Yeah. No, I have the smaller version of the iPhone 6, and it suits me fine, but if I had the option to get a bigger one, I would.
Yeah. No, my wife is the same way. She's like, she bought the 6, and she's like, yeah, that's the one everyone's buying. And then literally she like holds my, like, the big phone, and she's like, well, I fucked this up.
Yeah. I would periodically ask Chris Zegler to like take his Plus and just like put it in my pocket and just play with it. And just,
glasses should not cost as much as an iPhone.
Oh, I'm gonna
all right.
Like, we're just getting the stories about holding other people's phones.
There.
Glasses should, however, you can have all the glasses you want because they should be cheap. That is why Warby Parker is creating a new concept in eyewear: contemporary eyeglasses that are extremely affordable and fashion forward. This exclamation point is completely out of place. They believe in glasses that should be viewed as a fashion accessory, just like a bag, a shoe, a necktie, or a hat. At $95, Warby Parker makes it easy to accessorize with glasses. On top of their great price, all glasses from Warby Parker include anti-reflective, anti-glare coating at no additional cost, and all the glasses include a hard case and a cleaning cloth. There are no additional items you will need to purchase, except additional glasses, because then you'll have so many of them. Best of all, Warby Parker makes buying high-quality prescription glasses online easy, risk-free, and most of all, enjoyable. With the Home Try-On program, there's so many exclamation points here that just seem randomly. With the Home Try-On program, you can order 5 pairs of glasses to be shipped directly to you for free. You can try all the frames on, get a feel for them, get feedback from others, because what you want to do in life is wander through the world wearing different pairs of glasses and saying, are these cool? These cool. And then other people will tell you. You get 5 pairs for 5 days. You mail them back to Warby Parker in a prepaid package. You just go to warbyparker.com/vergecast. That's cool. You got a little URL.
Sweet.
warbyparker.com. Choose 5 pairs of glasses. Try them on for free for 5 days, and then pick ones you want. Send the ones you don't like back, and then order the ones you like. So visit that URL. That's warbyparker.com/vergecast. You get free 3-day shipping on your final frame choice. Your experience is completely risk-free. There's free shipping all around. And for every pair of glasses sold, someone in need will get a free pair of glasses. Oh. So you're basically a bad person if you're not buying glasses from Warby Parker. So please, I beg of you, desperately, Go to warbyparker.com/Vergecast today. Get started on finding your new look and also hopefully seeing more accurately, which is a key component of wearing sunglasses or regular glasses or whatever. Just buy
sunglasses.
Just buy some glasses at this URL, which is warbyparker.com/Vergecast. It's the only thing you can possibly do to make yourself feel better about yourself as a person.
I just,
Try blocking that ad. You know?
I was threatening Nilay, for those of you who are pro ad blocker, with ad blocking him like during the episode and just interrupting him as he was trying to read the ad throughout.
The exclamation points did that for him.
Yeah, I know. I didn't.
I will say it's good copy,
But it's really exciting.
it's just, why would you mix bullet points and exclamation points? It's whatever.
Can we get a hype check on exclamation points?
I have an idea. I have a thought about this. Like
Abysmal.
I have a deep thought
agree.
about this. So I was
too many exclamation
Too
points.
many.
People use them too much.
okay. The only correct number of exclamation points is 3. In any like you can
What, in a
use,
text message? Like, give me context
Yeah.
here.
so you can't use 1. 1 is too sincere. In a regular piece of correspondence, like an IM or text or something, right? You use 1.
Oh, you mean in succession? You mean 3
Yeah,
in
3
succession?
in succession.
Oh, okay. All right.
You use 1, you're like, it's a little too, like, dude, like, calm down, right?
3 is
You
a
use-
joke.
You use 2, you're like, you can't choose. And then 3 is like the right level of,
I disagree.
yeah, that's just where I'm at right
And
now.
I use exclamation points more than I should. I just, like in an email, I hate it.
I love them.
Loren, you gotta,
I actually read somewhere recently like why you should like lower the amount of times you use exclamation points, and they were like one of the arguments is like, what are you in kindergarten?
You know what it is I read Corey Sika at like a formative period as a young writer, and like now I can't not use exclamation marks. Like it's just like, because part of it too is that it conveys tone, right? Like, I'm so excited, period.
Yeah,
that's it. But that's like my affect.
I mean, then you use an exclamation point. If you're excited, then
Oh
you
my
can
God.
use it.
Okay.
There are rules.
Speaking of things we're excited about, space is on that list, he said awkwardly to transition away from this conversation. So, Loren,
We're very professional today.
have you ever heard this show? This is where we live. So let's talk about space. Loren,
let's talk about it.
there's breaking Pluto news, I was told as I sat down.
Yeah,
We're also worried that the government shutdown is going to affect NASA.
right.
And then billionaires keep firing shit into space. It just keeps happening over and over again. and then failing to land them.
Didn't happen recently, but sure. So first one, okay, so Pluto. So we got some great high resolution images from NASA right before we hopped onto this podcast.
Yeah.
I was kind of racing to get them up before we got in here.
you can view them at theverge.com.
Oh, hey.
Hey.
So the cool thing about this is these are I think they're the highest resolution ones we have from New Horizons, which was the probe that we sent there in July. Probe took 9 years to get there. Mm-hmm. Pluto is far. And now it's like it sent us a bunch of pictures back when it first was over there, but now like it's got to download all of those, and it takes a while. Like I think from where New Horizons is right now, it takes 4.5 hours for information to get to Earth. So after we got some really cool images in July, NASA kind of shut down New Horizons as it was preparing to download the rest of the data, and now we're starting to get those images in. I think we started getting them in September.
And we're getting them at like dial-up speed, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very slow. So NASA has been like releasing just a little treat for us every week. And with each new image, we learn something new. So like today, they had like a close-up view of if you've looked at pictures of Pluto, there's like a big heart region on it, which they've called Sputnik Planum. And they think that, that area has like a bunch of methane ice in it.
Yeah.
So like that's what some of these images are telling us. They kind of reveal little clues about like the composition of the dwarf planet and like, what, like I think there's like crazy icy mountain ranges that they showed in one of the pictures today.
There's an ice lake.
Ice lakes. There's like glacial flow. Like they think that glacial
flow sounds like a soap. I'm just putting it out there. Like, you could tell me there's glacial flow at like the CVS. I'm like, yeah, no, it smells really good.
I think one of the cool things, as he said, was so on Earth we have like this cycle for our water. We evaporate, it condenses in the air, and then it precipitates. Same thing happens on Pluto, but it's just in the form of, I think, nitrogen or methane. So they have like these crazy cycles, just like on Earth. So it's like really fun. Each new picture reveals some new science about the dwarf planet. I almost called it a planet, and I don't want to piss
So
anyone off.
you're really on one side of that debate because you pissed off all the other people. Dwarf planet is like the worst compromise. It's like
It's just harder to say because you just want to say planet, but I'm not of either.
But then Neil deGrasse Tyson is going to show up here and be like, you know what? I hate dreams.
He's gonna interrupt the Vergecast. It's gonna be like, and then like it's just gonna go blank.
I have to say, like, I'm a Neil deGrasse Tyson fan. He's been on some of our shows. He's like done a bunch of stuff with the Verge, and like the only mistake he consistently makes is like kind of being a jerk about Pluto. And it's like, why? Like,
I'm so tired of defending himself, Like I went to the Natural History Museum when the Pluto flyby was happening, and he was there. And of course, everybody was like, so are we going to call it a planet now? And he was like, guys, he's just like so over that question.
No, I just think it's funny that you can always turn him. Like, that's the one. You just like, you walk up behind him, you're like, Pluto, and he's like, that motherfucker. It's like good. Anyway, so more dwarf planet news. I mean, what a rhetorical compromise. You're like, it is a planet. It's just a dwarf planet. Anyway, keep going.
I think I was done. But yeah, no, I don't care if we call it a planet or a dwarf planet. I just think it's an awesome
that we're out there.
Space rock. Yeah.
Space rock.
That's what I like calling it.
So let me ask you, so transitioning into the NASA thing. So obviously, as always, the Republicans are threatening to shut down the government.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, this time is like unimportant.
It's a year.
It's a regular occurrence. No, it's like, things happen. The sun rises, it sets, we shut down the government. Does this affect like New Horizons? Does it affect NASA? Like, what are the implications?
So it could very well. I don't know if it'll affect New Horizons specifically, but basically what happens when the government shuts down is everyone deemed non-essential goes home. So I would assume, unfortunately, that New Horizons would be deemed inessential, and that people would not be coming into work to work on it. Maybe they might have a few core people, but the entire team, I don't think would be doing science on it.
Now, does that mean that we would lose data that we would never get to analyze, or does that mean that it's just put off?
I mean, it's possible. I'm not sure. I would have to talk to people on the New Horizons team. I don't know if they've really thought about it because we're not sure if it's going to happen yet. But I know that when, like last year or in 2013, 17,000 more, almost 18,000 of the entire 18,250 total employees went home during the shutdown.
Wow.
And it's not just NASA either. Like the big physics labs, like those nuclear reactors, all of the reactors have to be shut down, and they take days to get back online. Like after the government starts up again, it's weeks.
Yeah.
Before they can start going back, before physicists can start going back to their projects. It really interrupts the ability that a lot of our scientists have to actually do stuff that could potentially be helpful for our knowledge of the world. I don't know.
Yeah. I would assume at NASA, the people that would stay would be related to the International Space Station because we have people up there right now. So that would be the main focus, and all the other projects would kind of fall by the wayside.
Right. I just feel like I anthropomorphize our robots.
As one does.
Yeah.
And I'm like, poor New Horizons, just despeitly trying to send.
Trailing off.
It's like I
into
took
the
another
universe.
picture, and they're like, we're not, sorry, dude.
Not right now.
I unfriended you.
I would assume that, because right now, like I said, we're in the middle of downlinking these photos. I would assume that would halt.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's just computers doing stuff, right?
I mean, I don't want to say for sure, but it seems
possibility.
it seems like something that would definitely get under the chopping block.
So anyway, call your representative, tell them you don't want the government to be shut down because science is cool.
Well, this is a thing that we talked about. It's a thing that Liz and I talked about at the very beginning, and then Loren actually, when she came in interview, like we talked a lot about private space companies and how they're affecting sort of our relationship with NASA and just sort of how we think about innovation generally, because you have Elon Musk, who has an electric car company and is like everyone's hero because he's like doing SpaceX. And then you have Jeff Bezos, who runs Amazon, but also shoots rockets into space.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
It's like the thing to do when you found a website is to start your private spaceflight company.
So we know what
It's
Jim
like
Bankoff is going to be doing.
newspaper.
oh man, I can't even get him to like
Yes.
buy first class plane tickets. Like if he starts
Well, that's 'cause
shooting robots into space, I'll be real mad.
He's saving up. He's saving up for rockets.
I mean, just like get me the PJ. Like I keep talking about Vox One, and he keeps looking at me like I'm crazy. Like if we had a Gulfstream, I would be podcasting from the Gulfstream like all the time. Like it would be parked at the airport, and I'd be like, whatever, I'm never leaving Gulfstream. I don't care what you say. I live in this plane.
I live here now.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so the private space company, and this is actually where you got in trouble because SpaceX keeps trying to land its rocket
Right.
on a barge, which they keep saying is like, this is the hardest thing you could possibly do. And then like keep blowing it.
Okay, if I'm going to defend
it.
this,
We're gonna-
We're gonna go there.
Get in there.
We're going
right.
there.
The only,
So-
and when you get too far, I'll just read this ad for something.
Ladies and gentlemen, Grush goes in.
Oh man.
oh gosh,
Crush train.
and
All right, go for it.
an oft-repeated talking point, like I was saying, when shit goes wrong
Yeah.
with space is hard, which isn't incorrect. Okay,
Yeah.
that's not the point I was making. It is extremely hard. I have
Right.
parents who are rocket scientists. I would never presume to say that it is an easy science.
Right.
However, saying that over and over again, in my opinion, I believe it kind of makes us settle for when things go wrong. So I made the point of let's stop saying space is hard when stuff blows up,
Yeah.
because we need to reach an area or we need to reach, this time where things don't go wrong normally.
Right.
Because right now, I think it's like 1 in 10 rockets fail.
Right.
Which that's great, but we put people on the moon in the 60s. Okay? And I'm not saying that, there's no threshold I think we should be at right now. However, we should demand excellence of
Yeah.
our space companies. Let's not give them the benefit of the doubt when things go wrong.
I think particularly when they're private companies.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's like the weird new piece of this that I don't think existed before, right? Like you had the
Yeah.
private companies involved in spaceflight, but they were shielded by the government to
Right.
kind of an extreme extent. And now you have them being like, like Elon Musk is like, I want to colonize the moon.
Right.
But first, space is hard. And like, and that's a disconnect. And like, you wouldn't, I don't know, like you don't expect him to say that about anything else he tries.
Well,
No.
it's also like, to me, it's like saying the sky is blue. I mean,
Yeah,
it is
it's
blue.
so
what?
obvious,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, space is hard. Of course, space is hard. It's remarkable that we get there at all. Like I've said this before, I think it's one of the most remarkable things we've done as a species. It's like the only thing that some other species hasn't done, right?
100%.
Like, every time we've had a candidate thing that's like, oh, this is just humans. Like this is a uniquely human
Yeah.
trait. Then like we do a little more science and we're like,
Maybe
oh,
find it somewhere else.
oh, look, these other social animals do it too.
There are dolphins who blog. Bloggingdolphins.com, my newest website. It's just me recording dolphin chatter. And being like, they're great. So personable. They're really.
Like getting off the planet is something that is uniquely human, right?
Right.
Like deliberately like shooting ourselves into space and making it a goal to go see the rest of the solar system. That is something that that other animals don't do.
Yeah, and I just think we move forward by taking what is hard and making it easy. Like air travel. I mean, that was a risky business like 100 years ago, but now if a plane goes down, that is an embarrassment.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we're at that level by any means.
But that's everybody's
rocket
like
science.
dream, right? Like the dream is that we'll have space tourism, and
Right.
you can't really do that if like
But
1 out of 10 times you're gonna blow it.
I guess the point, like for me, the point that you're making is that, like, by saying space is hard, we are not anywhere closer to actually getting to the point where that we are with planes.
We're
like
coddling ourselves.
Yeah.
By saying it's okay, we've only reached halfway.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. I want to say, no, we can do way better. And that it was more of a love letter to our species than it was a criticism on SpaceX. I think it's because, I mean, I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm not going to say I can do better. I'm saying we as a species can do better.
Mm-hmm. You know, the other piece of it too, right, is like Elon Musk has these almost groupies, I would call them.
Yeah.
Like you say anything mildly critical of any of his projects and people come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
It's like there's like a cult of personality almost, you know, like I a while back noted that, you know, some of the Tesla vehicles that had been promised were delayed and like his stock had fallen, you know, like.
Yeah. But by the way, what you guys don't know about Liz is that she used to be a hardcore Bloomberg financial.
Every once in a while, I think I told you at CES, like my own personal Tyler Durden, like if I were to have like a split personality, like works on Goldman and is going to tank the economy because, you know, like that way.
And I say this with love in my heart, like true, deep affection. Liz is one of the most terrifying people I've ever met. Like, I'm just happy she's on my team, but I'm also
No comment.
I'm also afraid. Like every day I'm afraid. Anyway, carry on.
But so, you know, I feel like because there is this cult of personality and this resistance to recognize that, like, I think, you know, Elon Musk is kind of spreading himself pretty thin. He's got his solar battery company, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's not his. Like, that's... Okay, I'm doing it. I'm doing it right now.
The cult speaks.
But that's not him. Like, that's somebody else does it.
And then
like his brother does it, and he controls his brother from afar.
Okay.
With lasers.
With lasers from his lair where he's launching rockets, and, you know, and then he's got Tesla, and like any one of those companies, you know, to say nothing of the Hyperloop, good Lord. But any one of those companies in and of itself would be a full-time job. Like, those are really ambitious things to be doing that would require all of your attention as an executive. And so to be splitting it like that really concerns me. It makes me feel like he's not serious.
Right.
And we also forget, just to throw in one more point, is there are companies that have a very reliable, well, I should say company, reliable launch record, and that's the United Launch Alliance, which it's not as flashy as SpaceX. It's
Not as sexy.
Not as sexy. It doesn't have a crazy, you know, billionaire running it. I mean, he's probably a billionaire, I don't know. But it's just they have a reliable rocket, the Atlas V. I think it's gone up like 99% of the time. Maybe
Right.
No, I don't think it's ever crashed, actually.
But the United Launch Alliance is like called the United Launch Alliance,
Right.
Which like definitely
Not
means that
boring.
they're also deploying missiles into space.
Right.
Like zero question that like when the evil comes, like we like what will we be fighting? Like the ULA, like what does that stand for? Well, it used to stand for like like now it's the Uniform Laser Association, like whatever that like it's just such a bad name. Like
Might as well just call it Skynet.
it's like every airline frequent flyer consortium has a name that speaks to world domination. Like it's the fucking Star Alliance. And you're like, that is an association of planets that's trying to destroy our planet, right? Like that's not a frequent flyer sharing program. That's ridiculous. Anyway, but they don't get any credit because they're the entrenched players fundamentally.
I mean, they get credit, but they don't. I don't think they have this cult of personality that Liz was talking about. Like, no one's gonna. If an Atlas V were to blow up tomorrow, I don't think people. And if I wrote an article saying like "Don't say space is hard" in response to that, I don't think I would have gotten nearly as much crap about it.
Well, this is, and I have to make more money, but. This is the thing that we talked about at the top of the show, and again, Verge Science is always talking about, which is there's an amount of reverence that you give to scientists and people who can speak the language of science, because it's like they're magicians or they're magic or they're wizards and they understand something you don't know. But the whole point is to like democratize that information.
It's also that like loving science is kind of like loving science and critiquing science is very intimately linked. Like that's how you make science better, and that's how I love science.
Totally.
Yep.
Right. Okay. I love money. So yeah.
Go on.
Sorry, I'm just loading a PDF. That's all that's happening. Look, SoftLayer delivers a cloud built for power. And if our cloud was better, I would have loaded that PDF faster. Let's be clear. Your business, your applications, or computational workloads are unique. You deserve cloud resources that meet your specific needs. For example, loading PDFs of your advertising. Google Docs. SoftLayer is one of the only cloud providers that provisions dedicated servers and virtual servers, otherwise known as the public cloud, from a single seamless platform. Everything SoftLayer does is on demand. It's connected to the same open API. It's connected to the global private network. It allows you to scale your workloads up and down quickly and have ample space for your storage-intensive tasks. SoftLayer, as you may know if you've been listening to this show, like the dedicated listener that you are, is an IBM company. And I want you to think about that now on your commute. As you drive your car, you ride your train. What does that mean? In fact, SoftLayer, it powers IBM's Cloud Infrastructure Foundation. I'm really trying to sell SoftLayer right now. For all of its IBM cloud products and services. I've been told I do a bad job of reading the ads, so I'm trying to get into it.
You're doing great.
No, I'm not. But even if you're not looking for infrastructure, you can benefit from SoftLayer infrastructure when
you
you
even need to ad block him.
Buy
He ad blocks
IBM
himself.
cloud services. So all of our listeners have the opportunity to get $500 of cloud infrastructure by visiting softlayer.com/podcast. That's $500 of stuff, of cloud stuff. You can order bare metal servers, you can get virtual servers, you can get storage, you can get networking and security services. A billionaire will launch a rocket for you. SoftLayer has 24 data centers around the world, and all those servers and services are connected to SoftLayer's unique network of networks, which separates public, private, and management traffic, ensuring that traffic to and from your cloud infrastructure travels more efficiently. You can automate and control your cloud infrastructure with granular APIs, or just YOLO and use a SoftLayer customer portal. Visit softlayer.com/podcast to get started with your $500 off of server, storage, network, and security on a cloud built for power from SoftLayer. I got through it. We got through it together. I want to thank you all for being on the show.
Didn't know we were going to make it.
This disaster show. But that's the Verge. I think that's. I will say this about the Vergecast. It continually surprises me when we have. So it's been a year for Liz. She's been on the show a couple of times. When we have people on this show, immediately our hardest core audience knows everybody. It's the funniest thing. And I'm they're it's such a great thing that you finally hired Emily to cover entertainment. I'm like, she's been here for months. We just finally had her on the
Hey,
on
this
the
is my
show.
first Vergecast. So after a year and a little bit over a year and a half.
Yeah.
People will know who I am.
Finally, it's going to happen.
So hype.
So hype. Oh yeah, we've forgotten to hype check anything.
Yeah, well, let's hype check the hype desk.
No.
Let's hype check Arielle.
Can I hype check myself? Because I get flying
Everyone?
colors.
Everyone? Okay, 1, the hype checker cannot hype check themselves. 2, I firmly believe that hype checking the hype desk takes us to
Does that remove? No. Does that remove the hype desk's power?
Yeah.
You take everything away.
Right. The point of the hype desk is to validate or devalidate other things. So if you begin to validate the hype desk, it loses its ability to do the validation that so thoroughly its power derives from.
You've lost me.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, don't do it.
Okay.
I
I won't do it.
Okay, well, I have a different hype check then.
All right.
Okay, go for it.
Super blood moon. What are our feelings on the super blood moon?
Oh yeah, somebody should explain the super blood moon.
All right, well, let's start with Loren because she published a story about it.
Okay, so Sunday we'll actually have a pretty good view of a lunar eclipse. It's the East Coast at least has a good view of it.
Yeah.
I think you can still see it on the other coast, but
The best coast is the name of the other coast.
sure.
Yeah. Pacific time should be illegal. I'm just putting that there. We should just
Agreed.
abolish it. It is the worst. Anyway, blood moon.
Okay, so the cool thing is we have a total lunar eclipse happening at the same time as we have a full supermoon. So let's explain what those are. Supermoon happens sorry, I'm terrible at explaining things. The moon has an elliptical orbit around Earth. So sometimes it's closer to Earth, sometimes it's far away. The supermoon happens when a full moon happens when the moon is at its closest point to Earth. It's called perigee. So it's about 14% bigger. It looks 14% bigger, and it's 30% brighter. This is also happening on the same time as a lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipses look blood red because the Earth is between the sun and the moon. And so the light from the sun is coming around the Earth, and it's refracting through our atmosphere, and it filters out pretty much all of the colors except for red because it has a shorter wavelength. So the moon gets splattered with red, and at the same time the moon's going to be super big. So it's going to be a big old bloody red moon.
Blood on the moon.
Wow. Blood on the Moon, my favorite Eagles record.
Yeah, so It starts, I think the moon starts going into shadow at like 8:11 p.m. Eastern time. And then it starts to be totally red at like 10:11.
Wow.
And it'll last for an hour, a little over an hour.
We should all go outside at the bar and stare at the moon.
I like it.
Stare at the moon.
Sounds like a plan.
Look at that. So I want to close. We've got about 10 minutes left. I want to close.
We haven't hype checked the now
Super-
that we've explained the super blood moon.
moon.
Okay, you guys ready?
I feel like we hardcore sold the super blood moon. Like, I'm not sure what we... Okay, go ahead, though. No, hype check the super blood moon.
No, I mean, I won't do it if you don't want me to do it.
She goes full Canadian here.
The politeness.
I will say that Arielle's Canadian, as you may have noticed.
I am.
Very polite, but then when we push her over, it's like,
The Trini comes out.
wow. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm hype checking it.
Get it.
I would say it's like a special kind of off-world cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going for...
Technically, yes, it is off-world.
That's why it works.
You know that feeling when you're like in the car and the brakes go out?
No.
So I've only experienced this once in my life, and it was when I was 4 and I drove a car into a pond.
Wait, for real?
Tell me more.
A car.
Great.
Actually?
This is like this is such a stupid story. I was 4. My dad used to let me drive the car home down the street. This is like millennials. Like, I grew up in the 80s when it was like, all bets are off. Like, whatever. Like, wear a seatbelt? I don't know. Like, have a beer. You know, like, so when we would turn the corner onto my street, my dad would let me drive the car home. Like, from the time I was very small. Mm-hmm. And he was like, okay, we got in the house, we parked the car. It was not our car, it was a loaner.
So reaching the pedals.
Yeah.
I would like sit in
You
the
would sit
lap and
on
steer.
his- okay.
Yeah. And then as I got bigger and bigger, I would start to actually use the vehicle.
Great.
Anyway, so he got home and he's like, sit in the car, I'm gonna like take these groceries in. It was not our car, it was a loaner. Our car was in the shop. It was like the car dealer's loaner. It was a stick shift. And I was like, I'm gonna screw with the stick shift. And I got it into neutral and it just rolled down the hill into the house. And then, and I think this is when I truly became a fan of technology and gadgets. The car got stuck in the muck of the pond, and like an ever larger series of tow trucks kept arriving. Like there was like the one tow truck that couldn't do it, and they're like, "What about a bigger tow truck?"
Presumably by then you were out of the car.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was like a party. Like it was like Wisconsin. You know, like all the neighbors showed up.
Beer in hand.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, you got the car in the
beer and
pond."
some
Like,
cheese.
it was like crazy. And my dad was like very fond of like how much trouble I got into as a kid, which was like not a good, right? Like bad feedback loop. And he was just like laughing. He's like, "Oh, my kid drove the car in the pond."
Yeah,
like,
but, like,
the neighbors like grilling and like
For some reason, the
huge tow
story,
trucks.
everything makes sense now.
Yeah.
Anyway, but you know that feeling when the brakes and you can't stop the car. That's this podcast, is what I'm saying. And soon we're all going to drink beer and grill, and like the fire department will come.
And the entire tow truck community will be there.
Yeah, my dad was an ER doctor in Wisconsin, so he knew all the firemen. So I grew up thinking that firemen like perform services around the house. Because like my dad would be like, because he was like, oh, we got to build a treehouse. Like I know firemen who like are like want to like do handiwork, and he's like, a fireman's coming to build a treehouse. So I'd go to school, and be like, fireman built me a treehouse last week. What about you? And they're like, you're the coolest. I was like, I don't understand how anything works in the world.
Do you miss not being able to call firemen?
No, that's what I'm saying. My sister and I grew up thinking that firemen like performed essential services.
Right.
So as we became adults, I'd be like, oh man, like I need to like fix something in my home. Like you should call a fireman. My wife was like, that's not how it works.
I had a similar experience growing up in Texas, or at least in Houston. Everybody's parents wwere engineers.
Yeah.
So there was like a point where I was like, oh, people's parents have other professions than engineers.
Yeah.
Wait, you're a doctor?
How dare you?
What is that?
How dare you, sir?
Oh no, I feel you on that though, because like my dad is a psychology professor, and
Yeah.
I very much grew up in the rat lab feeding the rats.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so like every once in a while I'll mention that I was involved in childhood experiments because I was, and people get very like nervous about this. Like,
They kinda, wait, let's back that one up.
there's a preschool at Grinnell College, which is where my dad teaches. And it's I think free to the community, and you can choose not to have your kids participate in the experiments if you want. Basically, it's like there's a developmental psych class, and they put you in a room with like that glass that you can only see through one way, and they like do things like gee, what toy will this child play with if we put 10 toys in here, or like the marshmallow test or whatever, like just totally harmless stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, like
For somebody who doesn't know what the marshmallow test is.
oh, right. Sorry. We have this ongoing problem on the science desk where we're all nerds and we don't realize that like
But
we're talking past people.
Right. It's when you like put a marshmallow and then you time how long it takes for them to like not.
So, kind of. So what happens is the setup is there's a marshmallow on a plate or a cookie on a plate. Famously a marshmallow, hence the name. And you're told as like a 5-year-old, if you can not eat this marshmallow, you'll get 2 when the experimenter comes back. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, you have to sit there and like some kids can't do it. Like they just eat the marshmallow and they're like, well, but you know, some kids do. Some kids can wait and get 2 marshmallows. And it actually turns out to be a pretty good predictor of adult success, believe it or not.
I would have never waited. Zero chance I would have.
I honestly don't know if I would have.
I would have waited.
We should do this with our staff.
Marshmallows are gross.
We should do this with our staff.
Let's just do it with Ben's kids.
You're right.
I'm often worried that we're experimenting on Ben.
No, I'm also worried about that,
Like
actually.
we do it a lot. We're like, here's a gadget. Like put it near your kids.
And Ben's like, great, what a good idea. I love gadgets.
And Dan's like, no.
Arielle, can we hype check childhood experiments?
Wow.
Okay, so
Really? It's just like
I'm
send
going to
her into the
disclose a
danger
conflict
zone?
of interest.
Liz is my boss.
Well, there's that. But also, my parents are also professors, not psychology professors, actually marketing professors, but professors nonetheless. So, academia and childhood, awesome.
Sufficiently
10 out of 10.
hyped.
All right, you have 4 minutes left, Liz, and then we got to do all the wrap up stuff. Here's what I want you to talk about. Where this is a year. Mm-hmm. We've built out a great program. Where do you want to go the next year?
I want to get, if it's possible, even Vergier.
Oh, that's my favorite.
So, you know, we have, when I came in, I sort of had a plan about, you know, expanding into space, thinking about like, you know, doing rigorous analyses of some of the tech stuff that's coming towards us. I want to do more of that. And I also want to sort of explain the world a little bit more to people, because it turns out like a lot of the things that I think are obvious are in fact not obvious to everybody. Mm-hmm. Possibly because I have been writing about science for too long. So we're going to think about ways, you know, to create cool science videos explaining how the world works, to introduce you to really weird animals. That we've already started to do that with the Verge Animal Review.
Love it.
The controversial Verge interview. That's not good.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like there were like, I was really entertained. You know, we put up the first Verge review of cats, which I wrote. I went first. And we had a couple of people like, oh, what is this? Has the Verge sunk this low that they now must put cats on the site?
Jokes are not allowed.
And it's like, my favorite part though was that people responded like,
Yep.
and we're like, oh, yeah, man, like, I don't know, man, you know, the Verge, I don't know what the Verge is doing.
What are we doing?
And we don't know.
Can I tell the true story of the Genesis fan animal reviews?
Please,
Which
Please
is
do.
amazing. So we have all these section editors, like Liz is our science editor, and Emily's our entertainment editor, and Casey's our Silicon Valley. We have sections, right? And for a while, when all these people were like in their positions, we're like, okay, what's all the stuff we're going to make? Like we make TLDRs, and we make reports, and we make features, and we make news, and we make in tech, we make reviews. So like that was a column on our grid. And Liz is like, the fuck is a science review? She's like, what goes in this box? Like, can I just review animals? And I was like, you should review animals. And that was a hilarious joke that we were telling. And then we were trying to figure out, like, what are we going to do on the weekends? Like, we just need to have some fun on the weekends. And, like, animal reviews was, like, the number one answer we had for a weekend.
Coming back.
So there we are. But, like, it was really funny. Like, everyone just, like, looked at that reviews box. Like, what goes in here for this? And we answered, in some places, like, very normal, like in tech, but like, what is a science review? We have some other answers that are not just like rodents.
It's true. But, you know, and also like, I am a well-known cat lady. If you follow, like,
It's true.
It's just, I'm just going to be real about it. Like
To know Liz is to know Jeeves.
That's true. My cat's name is Jeeves.
We put Jeeves on our Facebook channel.
You put Jeeves on our Facebook channel.
Me and my friend
Him and some
Maker's
alcohol.
Mark. Me and my friend Mark. He's a maker.
I think I had posted some photo of her to Twitter. She has an Instagram account. It's Jeeves Old Sport on Instagram if you want to follow. She's beautiful. But so I had posted a photo and Nilay was, how is this cat so cute? And then he was like, I'm putting it on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's the middle of the night. No one will notice.
It did really well.
Was it just a picture?
Did
was
it
there
do
any,
really well?
context?
Actually, it did super well. Like, you people, you think we're just thirsty for traffic, but I could get all the clicks, like all day long with just photos of that cat. She's adorable.
I'm now on a mission to get my dog on Facebook.
Well, buy me some.
We'll
bourbon.
see.
Okay, that is it. That has been our show. I would like to thank Verge Science for being with us today. Again, if you were looking for hardcore tech news on the Vergecast, I think we mildly provided that when Arielle talked about our Note 5 lovingly for 30 seconds, but that's where we are. But like I said, we have a brand new podcast called Control Alt Delete, which is now up on the site. It's on iTunes. You can search for it. It's 40 minutes of me and Walt talking about the iPhone. That should satiate you, you monsters. Okay, so please, thank you for listening. You can follow The Verge. We're at Verge on Twitter. We're The Real Verge on Snapchat. We're on Instagram. I will say we just hit 50,000 followers on Snapchat. We just hit 1 million followers on Twitter. Verge, I'm fingers crossed.
At Verge Science is also doing
at
that.
Verge Science.
Yeah.
Verge Science also doing very well on Twitter. Fingers crossed. I think we're going to have our biggest month ever as a website, brand, media portfolio this month in September. So we're blowing up, partially thanks to the efforts of Verge Science, but also thanks to Verge Entertainment, Verge Cars, all these places we're growing. So follow us everywhere. Hit us on iTunes. I would love to know, give us 5 stars, and then you can say like how you would like the science section to expand. That's always my favorite.
One other thing, I'm going to just plug Emily and I, Emily
That was
Yoshida.
literally next on my list. But you can do you're here. So
You know.
you're here, so you can do it.
Emily Yoshida and I, she's our entertainment editor, as you've heard. We do a science and entertainment podcast together. It's Verge ESP. It's the only ESP that's real. And, we do something every 2 weeks. And we have had a number of very cool guests, and we have some really cool stuff coming up.
Yeah,
So,
it's going to be exciting.
yeah.
And then Chris Plant, who you may also know on our website, has What's Tech, which you can listen to. And you can go get all of it by going to itunes.com/Verge. It's all on the website. You can also go to youtube.com. The Vergecast has its own YouTube channel now. So just search for the Vergecast. You can hit us on YouTube. And you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Reckless. Liz.
I'm at Ms. Lopatto.
MS Lopatto.
I'm at Arielle D. Ross.
I'm at Loren Grush, Loren.
So complicated. And that was it. That was our show. I want to thank Braintree for sponsoring today's episode of the Vergecast. Braintree gives you a full stack payment solution, so you can pay us for this because we're blocking the fucking ads. So support all payment types your customers might want. Start accepting Android Pay, Apple Pay, PayPal, Bitcoin, Venmo, credit cards, whatever's next, all with a single integration across all platforms that are possible in human existence with superior fraud protection, customer service, fast payouts. Please check it out for yourself. Visit braintreepayments.com/Vergecast. Awesome. Thanks. Bye.